Ladies and gentlemen, if a man suddenly disappears from your life, don't rush to blame yourself. Because sometimes a man doesn't leave to forget you. He leaves because loving you forced him to face a version of himself he wasn't ready to meet. Sometimes distance isn't rejection, it's revelation. It's the moment his silence tells you more truth than his presence ever did. And if you understand why he pulled away, you'll stop chasing explanations and start recognizing your power. Because the real question isn't why he vanished, it's what his disappearance is trying to show you. If he truly loves you, he'll disappear. And I know that sounds backwards, confusing, maybe even a little painful to hear at first. But stay with me, because what I'm about to tell you isn't about losing someone, it's about understanding the moments where distance reveals truth more clearly than closeness ever could. Sometimes a man who cares deeply will pull away not because he wants to leave, but because he wants to understand himself. He wants to confront the parts of him that aren't ready, the fears he's been ignoring, the expectations he's afraid he might not meet. Love has a strange way of exposing the gaps in a person, the insecurities, the doubts, the shadows, and not everyone knows how to face those while standing right in front of you. So some men step back not as an escape, but as a way to figure out what they're really capable of giving. You see, real love doesn't come fully assembled. It's not handed to someone in a neatly wrapped box with every fear already sorted out. Most people don't even realize how unprepared they are for real intimacy until they meet someone who makes them feel something they weren't expecting. And when that happens, you'll watch even the strongest men need a moment. Not to run away, but to breathe, to process, to check whether they can step up in a way that honors what they've found. When a man truly cares for you, he won't want to give you half of himself. He won't want to show up broken, distracted, or unsure. And sometimes that desire to be enough for you makes him confront every place he feels he isn't yet enough. That's when he disappears. Not because you aren't worthy, but because he's asking himself whether he is. It's easy to think his silence means rejection, but often it's a sign of internal pressure, not external disinterest. You have to understand something important. A man who doesn't value you won't disappear with confusion. He'll drift with comfort. He'll stay close enough to take, but far enough to avoid responsibility. He'll hover, text, flirt, touch, and keep you emotionally available while he remains emotionally absent. That's not love, that's convenience. But the man who loves you, the man who feels the weight of what you awaken in him, he will disappear for a very different reason. He knows that being with you requires intention. He knows you aren't someone he can play with, postpone, or keep on the sidelines of his life. He feels the pressure that comes with potential, and he doesn't want to mishandle something with real meaning. So he steps back, not to detach, but to decide. And here's the part most people get wrong. His disappearance doesn't guarantee he'll return. Love doesn't always mean a reunion. Sometimes it means he leaves to grow and realizes he's not ready. Sometimes it means he heals and comes back stronger. Sometimes it means he understands who he wants to be, but still can't step into it yet. You cannot control that. You cannot force that. And you should never put your life on pause waiting for that. But what you can do is recognize that his distance isn't your failure. It's not a test you didn't pass. It's not proof that something was wrong with you. It's simply evidence that you touched something real in him, something he wasn't prepared for, something that forced him to evaluate himself in ways he may have been avoiding for years. A man disappears when he cares because he needs clarity. The man who disappears because he doesn't care is simply avoiding effort. There's a difference. One is rooted in fear, the other in indifference, and you must learn to tell the two apart. If he truly loves you, he will disappear to confront himself, not to forget you. He will disappear to make sure that if he chooses you, he does so with steadiness, not confusion. He will disappear to become the man he hopes you'll be proud to stand beside. And that kind of disappearance, as painful as it feels, carries more respect than a man who stays but never steps up. But here's where your power comes in. His journey cannot become your prison. His pause cannot become your paralysis. You are not meant to wait in emotional stillness until someone else decides what they want. You are not meant to shrink your life down to the timeline of someone else's growth. Your world does not stop simply because someone walked out of frame for a moment. If he truly loves you, he will disappear with reverence. If you truly love yourself, you will keep living while he's gone. There is something magnetic about a woman who doesn't pause her life when a man steps back. A woman who continues evolving, laughing, building, exploring, becoming. A woman who is not resentful but not idle. A woman who knows that love is not about proof. It's about readiness. If he is ready later, he will find you, not waiting, but glowing. And if he is not, you will have already created a life filled with people and experiences that value you. When he steps away, your job isn't to chase, fix, or convince. Your job is to observe. A man's disappearance tells you far more about his heart than his words ever could. The one who leaves and never returns teaches you that his role in your story was meant to be brief. The one who disappears and comes back with clarity reveals that distance wasn't abandonment, it was responsibility. Men feel love too deeply sometimes. They feel it in ways that challenge their identity, their past wounds, their future fears. But love isn't about whether a man feels something, it's about whether he feels ready to act on it. Some will disappear and not return, that's okay. They were not meant to be the ones who stay. Some will disappear and return as men transformed. That's okay too. You didn't lose them, you gave them a mirror. But regardless of which path he takes, your value remains unchanged. His vanishing act is never a reflection of your worth. It is a reflection of his readiness. So when he disappears, don't panic. Don't question your beauty, your energy, your presence, your strength. Don't rewrite your memories to blame yourself for his distance. Instead, take a breath and understand the truth that so many people miss. Sometimes a man steps away because you matter more than he expected you would. And sometimes the only way he can honor that truth is by facing himself before he faces you again. If he truly loves you, he will disappear, not to abandon you, but to confront his own capacity to love you in the way you deserve. And if he reappears, you'll know it wasn't impulsive. It wasn't accidental. It wasn't convenient. It was chosen, intentionally, consciously, bravely. And if he doesn't, that's not your loss. It's simply the universe removing someone who couldn't rise to the level of the love you're built to receive. And when you understand this, everything about his disappearance begins to feel different. It no longer feels like abandonment, it feels like revelation. It's the moment you realize that the universe doesn't always remove people to punish you. It removes them long enough to show you their truth. And his truth, whatever it may be, will always come out in the silence. Because silence has a way of pulling the mask off. It forces him to confront the things he can't outrun, his fears, his desires, his contradictions, his intentions. When a man truly cares, silence becomes a mirror. You think he's gone to forget you, but more often than not, he's gone because he can't. He's gone because being around you awakened a standard he wasn't sure he could meet. He's gone because you stirred something in him that doesn't disappear just because he steps away physically. And that's the part most people overlook. Love doesn't fade in distance. It intensifies. It becomes louder in the quiet moments. It becomes more evident in the space where distractions fall away and only truth remains. But while he's figuring himself out, something incredibly important is happening on your side too. Distance gives you clarity as well. It gives you the space to see what you were too close to notice before. It reveals the energy you were giving, the efforts you were making, the emotional weight you were carrying. It shows you where you were overcompensating, where you were hoping instead of observing, where you were investing in potential instead of consistency. His disappearance isn't just his journey. It's an invitation for you to reevaluate your own standards, because you deserve someone who doesn't have to disappear to realize they want you. You deserve someone who understands your value without needing solitude to remember it. And yet, life doesn't always unfold in perfectly aligned timelines. Sometimes the right connection shows up at the wrong moment. Sometimes love arrives before readiness does. Sometimes two people meet in a chapter where one is prepared and the other is still learning how to be. That doesn't make it any less real, but it does make it fragile, and this is where your strength becomes essential. You can't collapse every time someone needs space. You can't crumble because someone hasn't yet mastered their emotional world. Your self-worth cannot be tethered to someone else's growth curve. You are allowed to want a love that shows up, not one that retreats. You are allowed to want a partner who stands beside you, not one who disappears into uncertainty. You are allowed to want stability without apologizing for it. But wanting that doesn't mean you punish someone for needing time. It means you stay grounded in yourself while they take it. Because here's the truth, real love can't be rushed. It can't be pressured, forced, or manipulated into readiness. A man has to come to his own conclusions. He has to make his own choices. He has to step into the role of a partner, not because he fears losing you, but because he genuinely wants to meet you at your level. Some men disappear to grow. Some disappear because they're overwhelmed. Some disappear because they're afraid. But the one who truly cares will eventually face the tension inside him instead of running from it. He will return either ready or respectful enough to let you go peacefully. And both answers are valuable, even if only one is what you hoped for. While he's gone, you must remember something crucial. Your energy is not meant to be stored in a holding pattern. Your life doesn't freeze just because someone couldn't show up. You still have dreams to chase. You still have passions to nurture. You still have friendships, goals, hobbies, and moments of joy waiting for you. Your story doesn't pause in the absence of another character. Distance doesn't just test love, it reveals resilience. And you, whether you realize it yet or not, are resilient. You are capable of loving deeply without losing yourself. You are capable of standing alone without feeling abandoned. You are capable of allowing someone their space without allowing it to diminish your worth. Because the truth is, the woman who does not collapse in someone's absence is the woman every man remembers. Not because she played a game, but because she stood in her power. She didn't chase. She didn't beg. She didn't shrink. She didn't become bitter or desperate or reactive. She simply continued being who she is, confident, warm, loving, emotionally intelligent, grounded. A man does not forget a woman like that. Distance only amplifies her in his mind. It makes him see what he stands to lose. It forces him to confront the difference between the women who tolerated him and the woman who inspired him. It pushes him to decide whether he will rise or retreat permanently. And that is why disappearance can be a gift, even when it feels like a loss. It creates a distinction that closeness sometimes blurs. It shows you the difference between emotional potential and emotional readiness. It shows you the difference between a man who's overwhelmed and a man who's uninterested. It shows you the difference between someone who needs space to grow and someone who needs space because they simply don't care enough to try. A man who truly loves you will not vanish indefinitely. He may step back, but he won't disappear beyond the reach of responsibility. He won't stay silent so long that you become unsure of your own value. He won't take months to decide whether you matter. He won't leave you in emotional limbo while he entertains distractions. His disappearance will have intention, not negligence. His return will have clarity, not excuses. But if he doesn't return, it doesn't mean the love wasn't real. It just means the lesson was. And sometimes the universe gives you a man not to keep, but to awaken your standards, your boundaries, your strength, your confidence, your capacity for love. Some men are chapters, not endings. And you must learn to honor both. If he truly loves you, he'll disappear long enough to confront himself, but not long enough for you to lose yourself. And if you continue to rise in the meantime, if you continue to grow, to shine, to expand, you create a reality where his return becomes either a bonus or irrelevant. Because you're not waiting for a man to complete your story. You're simply open to the one who will complement it. Distance doesn't diminish real connections, it simply exposes their truth. And whatever truth his disappearance reveals, you'll be strong enough to receive it. Because you're not the kind of woman who breaks when someone steps away. You're the kind of woman who becomes even more powerful in the space they leave behind. And the moment you grasp this, you begin to feel an unexpected shift inside yourself. You stop looking at his absence as something done to you and start seeing it as something happening for you. Not because losing someone is enjoyable, but because every pause in your life carries information. Every silence has a message. Every disappearance reveals a chapter you were meant to read, even if you didn't choose to open the book. When the second part ends, a new layer of truth begins to unfold, emotional distance, especially when it comes from someone who once showed closeness, isn't just about him stepping away. It's about the role you choose to play while he's gone. It's about the internal dialogue you create in those moments where uncertainty tries to take over. It's about whether you let the absence turn into insecurity or whether you let it refine your standards. You see, when a man disappears, your instinct might be to analyze every detail. You might replay every conversation, every message, every look, searching for the moment something shifted. You may convince yourself that if you could just pinpoint where it all went wrong, you could undo it, you could correct it, you could fix it. But love isn't a puzzle you solve by dissecting the past. It's a choice someone makes in the present. He isn't disappearing because of the one thing you said or didn't say. He's disappearing because of the battles happening inside him. Battles that were there long before you entered his life. You didn't create those fears. You didn't plant those doubts. You didn't give him the insecurities he's wrestling with. You simply came close enough to make him aware of them. And that awareness can be overwhelming. But while he steps away to face his internal world, you are being called to face your own. Not the part of you that wonders whether you were enough, but the part of you that recognizes you've always been more than enough. The part of you that knows you deserve a love that doesn't disappear the moment things get real. The part of you that understands your worth isn't determined by whether someone stays or goes. Your worth is constant, even when someone is inconsistent. And when you reach that realization, something powerful happens. You stop using his behavior as a mirror for your value. You stop interpreting distance as a verdict. You stop confusing silence with rejection. Instead, you start seeing that sometimes the person who leaves simply isn't ready for the kind of love you offer. And that's not a reflection of your inadequacy, it's a reflection of your depth. People disappear when they sense depth they aren't prepared for. Depth demands reciprocity. Depth exposes pretenders. Depth pushes away those who only know how to love casually, loosely, superficially, and you weren't made for casual, you weren't made for halfway, you weren't made for someone still figuring out whether they want to show up. You were made for someone who recognizes your value immediately, not eventually. But even then, the story isn't always linear. Sometimes someone does recognize your value, but the timing still isn't aligned. Sometimes someone feels deeply for you, but their emotional muscles are still underdeveloped. Sometimes someone wants you, but fear is louder than desire. And in those cases, disappearance is not the end. It's a recalibration. What matters is what you do during his absence. Do you dim your light, or do you let it burn brighter? Do you hold your breath, or do you keep moving forward? Do you shrink your standards, or do you reinforce them? Do you cling to hope, or do you cling to self-respect? The woman who thrives in someone's absence is the woman who commands presence. You become unforgettable not by waiting, but by evolving. You become more compelling not by chasing, but by flourishing. You become more attractive not by trying to prove your worth, but by embodying it. Because here is a truth too many people forget. A man isn't moved by the woman who needs him. He's moved by the woman who inspires him. The woman who continues growing with or without him. The woman whose life doesn't collapse because someone stepped away. The woman who doesn't need saving or fixing or validating. The woman who knows she brings value to any room she walks into. And absence has a way of highlighting that value. It makes him see the difference between emotional noise and emotional presence. It makes him realize how rare consistency, kindness, peace, depth, and emotional maturity truly are. It makes him aware of the calm you brought, the confidence you radiated, the safety you offered. It makes him question whether he's letting go of something that doesn't come around twice. But these realizations don't arise because you waited. They arise because you didn't. A woman standing still becomes forgettable. A woman moving forward becomes unforgettable. His disappearance is not your cue to pause your journey. It's your cue to accelerate it. You expand your life, you nurture friendships, you grow your career, you chase the experiences you've postponed. You explore the passions you've been saving for someday. You become the version of yourself you always knew you could be if you stopped holding back. And while you're doing that, something else happens. Your emotional clarity sharpens. You begin to see the difference between a man who stepped away temporarily to grow and a man who stepped away permanently because he was never emotionally invested. You begin to see that a man who truly cares will feel the pull to return, not because he's lonely, but because he's aligned. Not because he misses attention, but because he misses you. Not because he's bored, but because he's ready. And readiness is everything. This is how you evolve, not by making someone else your emotional center, but by making yourself the anchor of your own life. You stop living in response to someone else's behavior. You stop handing out emotional access to people who haven't proven consistency. You stop trading your peace for someone's potential. Instead, you live by a simple principle. If someone disappears, you let them. If someone returns with clarity, you listen. If someone returns with confusion, you decline. If someone never returns, you thank the universe for the redirection. Because here's what many never understand until it's too late. Disappearing is easy. Returning with intention is rare. And you are too valuable, too extraordinary, too emotionally rich to build your life around anything rare that isn't also reliable. So when the second part ends, your story doesn't pause. It expands, it deepens, it strengthens. You become the version of yourself who understands that love isn't about holding on tightly. It's about allowing space for truth to reveal itself. And when it does, you'll be strong enough, wise enough, and grounded enough to receive whatever that truth may be.